I'm back to carry on with the epic adventure that is Cairn FEUD adaptation. Uh, so, last time we were talking about what we might call like adapting Cairn to FEUD, in that we were thinking about changing the backgrounds of the characters, which I have now done. Well, I thought I'd added breaks in between these, but whatever. Um, yeah, so which I have now done, and here is the write up of that. This is what I was streaming last time. Um, this time I'm going to be thinking more about L monsters, the monsters um, of Feud and how they might function with Cairn. So let's, without further ado, do that, and let's get into it. So. Minimize. I'm looking on the wrong screen. Cool. Right. Cairn. So, not a system I know particularly well. Like I played a couple of games in it. I think once or twice. I've never run it, and I think for me that's kind of like why I'm a little bit apprehensive around some of my decisions. Um, but it's fairly straightforward, and Yohai's like ethos, as far as I can tell, is very live and let live around some game design things. So that is the attitude I'm going to take. Um, their website is just great, and it has like so much guidance for doing all of the things that we're going to start trying to do today around like creating monsters and stuff. I think somehow I feel like somehow this information on the site is basically the same as what's in the PDF, but something about the nice PDF format, uh, my brain is just clicking with it a little bit better, a little bit more simplistically. So I think I'm going to start with the PDF as my like guide for how to do that, plus this little block of information here. Um, and I'll probably like scan through this as we go. Um, One of the big challenges and the things I'm like really enjoying about doing this is that it's been a long time since I've thought in terms of like numbers and hit points and these kind of like elements of system. Definitely nothing to do with feud. Like feud is what people are calling qualitative. It doesn't have numbers. So making the movement over from that into the numbers, from the qualitative into numbers, is kind of like it's kind of a fun little thing that takes me back to some of those like old bits of like design and hacking from when I first got into RPGs. Let me start with. So we're going to do the monsters now. I've got a handful of monsters in Feud. I'm also going to do probably some of the NPCs who sort of like count as monsters to a certain extent. We've got this one here, the Alone. We've got these faux spirits, and then we've got this one which is called Fiona's Blood. And Fiona's Blood is far and away the most complex. It's like the actual monster. Um, for those who don't know, which is myself included, really, um, the word monster is this really interesting one in like the Anglo-Saxon setting that this is inspired by, because so the classic example is that in Beowulf, traditionally Beowulf has been referred to as a hero and Grendel's mother as a monster. But actually, sometimes the word that is used and is translated as hero and monster are actually the same word. That is, there is something monstrous about Beowulf, and there is something heroic about Grendel's mother. And Fiorunu's Blood, which is the name of this creature, is very much in that line. She's a human monster, a monstrous human, but she's not human at all. She doesn't, at all. She's actually an embodied mass of mistletoe, essentially. You know, mistletoe, the parasite which people kiss under. She's a sort of mass of that stuff come to life. So she is this sort of human monstrous character, and that's the thing I'm kind of like going to struggle with putting into the numbers, because you as far as I tell with RPGs, you often put things into numbers in order to I think people call them gameable elements. I think of them as affordances. You interact via the numbers with the fiction, so it's kind of like, if you give them hit points, you're indicating that they can be hit. If you give them, other stats, you're indicating that they can be sort of numerically interacted with in that way. And so I think my big challenge for this evening is going to be balancing that kind of like affordance thing that comes out of numbers with the more qualitative nebulousness that I, have created here in FEUD. All right, a cup of tea. I see. Now you're on a British stream, when it doesn't matter how dark it is, what time it is, there's always going to be some kind of little cup of tea involved. Sorry, I should have like a little mute button or something so you don't hear me slurping away. Okay. But before we get into Fiona's blood, we might do like the little faux spirits, who are kind of like just little goblin-y, gremlin-y things that are much more simple, much more basic. So I think I might start with them and then maybe move on to Fiona's blood. So let me remind myself, I guess, what is the faux spirit. So they live in one particular area. They live around this thing called the Deep Path, which is this just this wooded part of the region. So faux spirits, also called Geistmers, night riders, chill winds, and rune foes. They are trickster spirits pulled into the wake of the descending god's passage. That's a god in this world. Is this it awoke as a drop of blood that sort of just slowly seeping into the ground, deeper and deeper beneath these standing stones, and it is the descending god. They shift and dart in the woods. To each person they appear as something frightening. A dead rabbit hopping between the trees, a lost relative creeping behind the branches, a falling babe with empty eye sockets. It's very like a Hammer horror, isn't it? Whatever evil they produce comes from panic, fear, mishaps, and ill fortune. They have no discernible will beyond frightening others. They're just little ghouls. They're little sprites, They're almost imagination, they're almost like just a thing you see in the darkness as you go towards this ancient old standing stones. You see these strange creatures. There's almost a question of, are they really real? So let's see how that translates over to our little stat box structure and so on and so forth. Yeah, let me get up. Where is my notes? Let's do this. Okay, so this is how it's suggested we structure them. So let's type them out. God, this is I swear I wasn't here earlier today. All right, faux spirits. Zoom in slightly. Okay, X HP, X armor, X strength, X dex, X will, weapon, and then D X special items, qualities. I'm going to treat this as a tick box exercise of like filling in these spaces. There's part of my brain is like little, I don't know, either angel and or devil, or some combination of the two on my shoulder going, what's this? Numbers? No. Right. Okay, so engaging descriptive appearance or demeanor. We can do that quite easily. So appearing as a something strange and frightening, depending on the viewer. I think that is fine. I think that captures this idea of them as this sort of like little creature thing. We'll maybe say who sees them rather than the viewer who sees them. Quirk, tactic, or peculiarity making this NPC unique. That's kind of that, isn't it? Oh no, okay, so this is perhaps more action. So I've put here like trickster spirits, whatever ill they produce comes from panic, fear, mishaps, and ill fortune. So it's more like, you're walking on the woods and they go there, and you trip over a log as a result, or something along those lines. So maybe that's the thing to do. Yeah, let's put that as that. Yeah. Doing something strange about anything who sees them. So let's put them as like attempt to slip out of the dark of the trees and frighten and startle people. That seems fine. What else have we got in Cairn? Da-da-da-da. Special effect or critical damage consequence. Like, let's do like, let's get this word trickster spirits in here. Trickster spirits. Darting between the ancient trees. Appearing as frightening visions, depending on the viewer. So we'll just throw that word back in there. Then, true spirits darting between the ancient trees, appearing as frightening visions depending on the viewer, and their special effect or critical damage is shocking, startling, and frightening. They in some respects they're going to stop the players in their tracks. They're going to like freeze them in some capacity. Again, that's the sort of thing that I don't know how significant that is if you're playing Cairn. Like, I think it's fine. I think it's like, it's trying to make the point that they're not just spooky things. They actually have this kind of negative impact, like being shocked or startled and frightened. Those are not just passive things that are, they're not just setting mood, they're actually debilitating in some regard. One of the real challenges, like, and I was going to like fly through some of the monsters. Where were they? Resources, monsters. Let's try like some things that I feel like would be. So what I'm thinking about is like the immunity to damage. So I'm thinking of some things that would be immune to damage, like from regular creatures. Let's do like something that might just be resistant. Shambling man, maybe. Blue dragon, green dragon, zombie. unharmed by cold, heat, or the elements. Okay, so we can include that as an idea. Sort of special ability, a special attack. Fighting bastards without meeting again. Direct attacks are impaired. Okay. Completely invisible and silent. Detecting is virtually impossible. So in fact, really, these sort of things I'm supposed to be using as damage from mundane weapons is impaired. Okay. Yeah, because this one of the challenges is that like I just want all of them to be like cannot be harmed, basically like cannot be harmed by mundane weapons. Like you wouldn't ever fight these things. I mean, you might in a moment of madness climb into a dark forest in order to chase after a phantom. Um, but like I need to communicate that in a way that like fits with the system, so that if people like are bringing in like magical characters and things like that, that they have like a role. And like there are there are two weapons in the world of FEUD which theoretically could damage these things. You know, well, not theoretically, they could. So, but like in the way these are designed, it's clearly these are like unusual things. I guess like if we think of like the monsters of this area, also including like the other human characters, like heroic warriors, um, friends of Ing, who are like one of the factions, uh, got warriors, and lords, and yeah, retainer and like half-guard or something to call them. And the wild ones. These are the people who live outside of the world in which the actual story is taking place, and these are the wild ones. So those are like perhaps then if we're having this kind of like spread of monsters, then we it doesn't matter so much that if we just sort of kind of want to add on because it's like it's so boring to just be like put those together and then just say cannot be damaged by mundane weapons. I mean, maybe it's okay. Maybe that's fine. And just for the foe spirits and the alone and Fjord's blood, we just, because they're like true monsters, they're truly inhuman, we just have the same thing, like the same setup for them. Fjord's blood. Sure, I don't love it, but we'll keep that as our like working point. If anybody like sees this and has any comments or like suggestions on maybe I'm just missing that this is totally fine, I'm overthinking some of this stuff, then please leave a comment and I'll see it and I'll know, because I'll be thinking about this after I've finished this evening, for sure. Okay. Which makes me feel like XHP like low, like 2, because 3 is deficient, 6 is weak, 10 is average. Like, essentially, if you are going to hit this thing with a magical weapon that's actually capable of damaging it, then you're going to make it disappear or whatever it is that would happen to a foe spirit. I suppose they theoretically might be slightly more resistant than these things here, the alone, which would like literally melt. Cannot be damaged by mundane weapons. Are instantly obliterated. by sunlight or firelight. Um, the challenge of the alone is that they are they're actually hard to interact with. Like they are incredibly. I'll go over them in a second. They're incredibly important, like useful things if you can access them. But actually, the main problem is that you'd have to walk in the dark into a swamp in order to do so. Not a kind swamp either. So yeah, let's jump ahead. Let's go over to the alone and do them because my imagination's working with them now. The alone at Umcutoft and Leoth Swamp. Umcutoft is a place. Leoth is the god. Well, it's the old god of the region. This little decoration here is her roots, but she's basically dead now. So, in the pure darkness of the bog are the death sighs of the goddess Leoth. These are the alone. They feel themselves as a human, suddenly waking, choking in the night waters of the marsh. They're a cruel thing. They struggle to escape the dark water, thrashing and clawing, crying out for help. Most do not make it and sink down to nothing. Some find the surface and firmer ground, there to hope for help, but unknowing who or what they are. They will to live and commune as the humans they feel themselves to be, minds filled with the dark knowledge of the deadly oath. They would share what they can with those who could talk to them, yet, where any source of flame light or sunlight touches them, they are utterly wiped away. Okay, cool. So, their special thing, their special use, is that they are knowledgeable of the spirits, gods, and monsters of this region. So can talk as humans, can talk and are knowledgeable of. They appear to be humans who awake in the waters of the Earth Swamp. Choking and lost. Something like that. So they, if you were to hit them with the magic sword, they are a breath from non-existence at the best of time. They're like, Leoth is the creator goddess of the region. She's the god who created everything that is there. Like life in the region is the result of Leoth's actions. And so what we're seeing with the alone is they're a little breath, they're a little memory, they're a fading in some respects. So they're very close to non-existent. So like armor. What am I supposed to do for armor? Oh, not everything has armor. Okay, so some things have armor, like creatures. Okay, so no armor for foe spirits, no armor for the alone. Strength. Like they're made of dust too. They couldn't hurt you even if they tried. Dexterity, like 5. Let's just do 3. Like they wouldn't move out of your way. Will. Oh, then this is my problem. I do know what will is. Will. As if I need someone here to explain to me what will is. Will. Used for saves to persuade, deceive, interrogate, intimidate, charm, provoke, manipulate spells. I would say their will is low. They would be charmed. They want to be alive. They're not really conscious of what exactly they are, but they want to be alive. And if a human was talking to them, they would 100%, like any of us, if we were desperate, would be, willing to talk to anybody. So I'm going to say their will is low. Real low, like less than 6, but we'll say 5. Like, yeah. Weapon, they have no weapon. They can't bite you. They have no weapon. They're not violent at all. not at all. I think, I mean, like if I was actually playing FEUD, like using my kind of like qualitative system, I probably would let them in a certain situations become violent. Like if you were to anger Leotha, like threaten her or something like that, like she might like just with her last ounce of strength set these things upon you, and they might try and drag you down into the swamp. Um, in fact, actually, there are some magical items buried in one of the woods near where the character's based, whereby, like, if they go in there and they take those items, then they become sort of compelled with a desire to join the alone, and they sort of like must make their way over to the swamp and sink down with them. So maybe I would include that, but I don't think so. I think with this slightly more like limited set of like this is how you interact with this thing, I think this is the primary thing. I think that's like my main like question with uh, going back to what I was saying about like gameable elements and affordances, is that without getting too philosophical, I'm this big believer in the idea that like when you put a thing into existence, you're you're both creating a thing that can be interacted with, but you're also limiting existence to a sort of a frame that can interact with that thing. And I think like that's something that perhaps why I struggle in some respects with uh, this sort of approach to designing creatures and things is you're and it's not. I think it's a personal taste thing. Like I've always been into this kind of like ambiguity and vagueness in some respects, but you're sort of like you're setting boundaries. You're setting how I can interact with this creature, and therefore the alternative options becomes weaker. They become sort of overshadowed by the light of what I can see I can do with them, and then and then it relies on the confident GM in order to step away from what is written, to step out of that light and into that sort of murk and the darkness. Oh, I feel like there's a blog post in there somewhere. Stepping out of the light and into I don't know, some crap. Yeah, but if we are doing this, if we are having a shining light of this is the way we interact with this thing, I think that's correct for the alone. I think this is correct for the foe spirits. They're just naughty in some respect, but they might trip you up and kill you. Strength. I think they could potentially be quite strong. One thing I was wondering when I was looking at this is this idea that like all hooded men have 12 decks, all wood trolls have 12 decks, 8 strength. Do people like you know create a range? Like, so if you had like I don't know, yeah, 3 wood trolls you were fighting with, would one of them be the big strong one of them would be the faster one of them would be like the more resilient one? So like instead of being 15, 12, 7, you made it like 8 plus D8, 8 plus D6, 8 plus D4 or something. So you can kind of get that range if you have like a group of them. I don't know if people do that, but it's what I'm going to do, I think. Let's imagine I wasn't doing that and then work backwards. Oh god, give average creatures 3 HP. 2. So, strength. I would suggest they're not very strong. So how do you handle like God, sorry, I'm being silly now. How do you handle like 6 of them at once? Like what if all 6 of them are acting upon you at the same time? Like do you then treat their strength as 36 or does it cap at 20? Um, yeah. 6 strength. Well, we can have them be nice and dexterous. 10 is average. I think they can be really dexterous actually. They can like fly around all over the place, so we'll give them like really high dex. Will, they can't be charmed. I don't feel like they could be charmed at all easily. Maybe if you could convince them that you had been sent by the descending god, or you had some way of communicating to prove that, then maybe you could impact their will. But if you were just like random Joe blogs, it'd be like trying to convince a squirrel to do something. They're not. I suppose then you also throw in the idea of frighten. Like you can frighten a squirrel, you cannot frighten these things. A crow, you can't frighten a crow. Like throw a stone at it, just moves out of the way and just looks at you like you're an idiot. Like what would the will of a crow be? The will of a crow would be legendary. Um, like so good. Let me just double check what will is. Will. Okay, will. Oh, keep going. Hit protection. My brain. Why didn't I literally just read this 2 minutes ago. Fiction first, difficulty, principle. Will. 54. Will. Saves persuade, deceive, interrogate, intimidate. So, could I persuade a crow of anything? I guess I could feed it, and that would be persuading it to come and see me. Could I deceive the crow? I feel like I could deceive a crow. Not necessarily in the way that I think this word is intended. I'm not sure. I assume that's supposed to be deceived, like, oh yes, troll, I taste horrible and you can't eat me. Interrogate a crow. Again, legendary resistance for interrogating of crows. Intimidate. I just don't think you can scare a crow. If they can just fly away from you, I don't think they're going to be scared of you. It's just trap them in would be. Charm them. Well, hello. Fancy meeting you, crow. No, I'm not going to be charming any crows. Provoking. It's tricky, isn't it? Like, does that mean they have a really, really high will because they're resistant to stuff, or do they have a low will? Like cobblehounds, it's got kind of like a lowish will. Boggart. I'm really not sure, like how that actually translates over to will. Could you convince them of anything? I'm not sure. Yeah, no, I'm just going to highlight it. I need if you are watching this and have some kind of ability to communicate with me and give me advice, then please do. Otherwise, I'll reflect and I'll come back to it. Maybe I'll ask on the Discord or something. Again, weapon, bite. They're not corporeal. They're like a boggart in I don't know what boggarts are like in this, but they're like the boggart from Harry Potter, whereby they're just a representation of your fear. They wouldn't. So their weapon is they're frightening. So maybe where was Basilisk? Gaze. Okay, let's take this and turn this into a weapon. So terrify a PC exposed to a foe spirit must make a will save, or I'm just going to write be frightened or stunned. I'm just going to hope that people who would play Cairn would understand what those two things mean. I'll double check and make sure that there may be some actual keyword to use here, but for the time being that'll do. But again, so therefore just no weapon. They just don't have a weapon. They're not fighting you. feel like that takes me to Fioru's blood, but that's really challenging to like turn into this kind of like model. I think I've got there, but like one of my big challenges with it, like it's obviously like the purpose of writing it like this is that it gives you that something limited that you use as a starting point, and like you can build out so much from the cult, derive their power from ley lines and runestones and the like. Like you can build out a lot from that. Um, but um, sorry, I just got totally distracted by the cobble hounds loving a good bone, which is just really nice to know. Um, the yeah, is you can build a lot out from them, but if we like come to Fioru's blood, right? She is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 paragraphs. This is a little song written about Fioru's blood. She's like a lot of FEUD's design is what we might call distributed. It's like it's spread across the place a little bit purposefully in order to allow you to miss things and also like build things. This is a poem that is about the sword that killed Fioru, who was Fioru's blood's mother. Um, Adding in a little bit there, and we see this here is the hand of Fioru. You see the mistletoe in the background. The hand of Fioru, which is used to communicate with Fioru's blood by um, one of the characters in this village here, this guy. Maybe I am overthinking it though. Maybe like if I bring my mind back to that idea of like what is the purpose of Fioru's blood? What is her role in not in the story, is it? It's not, and it's funny. Like I feel like in some respects these are not the roles of these things in the world necessarily, and obviously they are to an extent. Like the Watchers in the Wood here and the Cobblehounds. Sorry. um, uh, but what we're actually seeing as well is it's their role in the relationship to the players, to the characters. Um, so, what is the role of Fioru in relationship to them? I can come up with a broad description, like by day, a woman's body stuffed in an oak tree. By night, a mistletoe, a mass of shambling mistletoe. A humanoid mass of shambling, mistletoe. That's our description of her physically. That's what we're going to see. It too has a lot of knowledge of the way things work. It knows more about people and it knows more about the actual like story, so to speak. Whereas the alone, if you were to speak to them, they'd be revealing things of like a slightly more cerebral level. Fioru's blood knows things a bit more about people in the region. She's very dangerous in a way that the others aren't. Like, so it says here at the bottom, like, poor Fioru's blood. She wishes to be loved and is so afraid of being hurt. In her daytime form, she is nothing more than a corpse. By night, she is a terrifying danger. Either her affection or her fear are deadly. I.e., she's a big beast. She can't really control herself in many respects. So her weapon, I guess we can say, is like mistletoe boughs. Really dangerous. Like I don't know what the highest damage thingy is. What's the wood troll? D8 plus D8. Oh, that's cool. Oh yeah, because they're blasting, they're bashing on the ground. D10. Oh yeah, so we do have things without weapons. That's cool. I don't know what the highest damage roll is. I assume it's a D12. Just search. Do we have D12 in here? Oh, D123. 1D12. Okay, yeah, so the attack is enhanced, allowing the attacker to roll 1d12 damage instead of the normal die. So it's like the extreme of what damage can be done. So that works because she's easily the most powerful thing in the world in this region beyond the gods themselves. But they're interacting with you in a different way. Special items qualities, like you could add in like their she has like this parasitic effect on you, like if she strikes you, you sort of like become infected by the mistletoe or something. Um, could add that as like an attack, like a special attack sort of thing. Um, yes, that's my cat shouting at me for his dinner. Um, I guess maybe like I can just write it. I think I am just overthinking this. Those who possess Fiorunu's hand can communicate with this monster and learn her knowledge of the people and gods of this land. And then I guess that's just leaving things do it to it. Maybe like she can be damaged, like maybe that's kind of like I mean again she definitely couldn't hear, but maybe in like the style of Cairn she could be. So what is it? Impaired is the and the must roll. Okay, let's say all attacks against Fiorunu's blood are impaired. And then maybe we just give her really high stats, and then that's just indicating that she's really powerful. It misses out quite a bit, like who, let's say who wanders. Oh, that's a good idea, Simon. So like she gets like uh, the people and gods of this land. She gets like recreated. Like okay, yeah, let's do it that way. Uh, Fiorunu's blood will reform after her death. Let's say regrow. Yeah, Fiona's blood will regrow after her death. Or let's say regrow. Yeah, and then I'm just going to add in no. Yeah, so the thing is, like, I want to indicate what she does, like what her role actually is in the world, and but how do you say she roams the woods? Maybe like who wanders the woods, looking for people, like looking for them to do what? Looking for people to communicate with, looking for friends, looking for lovers, looking for kindness, looking for yuzu. That's what they're looking for, isn't it? Um, let's say like looking for people, and then if we just say looking for people, then it leaves us up to whatever we want from if we're running this, we can do it in whatever we want when we just try to interpret what is looking for people. Right, HP source. Am I missing here? Scars. Blast, critical damage. Oh, I think that's very good, Simon. Yes. Trying to regain her humanity. Trying to regain her humanity. And again, this doesn't quite capture it, but that works perfectly in the context of FEUD itself because she feels like she is trying to regain her humanity, but she's not a human and she never was. She was the blood of a it's a bit complex, but the blood of a person who once was a human who became a monster due to some other like apocalyptic event. Um, but yeah, I think that works really well. Let's just give her some HP. HP, oh, serious effects, 10 plus. What did the dragon get? Great green dragon, 12 HP. She's as powerful in this world as a green dragon. X armor. I don't understand armor. 2 armor. 2 armor. You know what? She's a great dragon. 14, 15. Again, like, what is her will? Like, you couldn't. I don't know. Maybe I'd give her like a lower will. But no, she's like a big mound of mistletoe. She's not like she doesn't have will when you're communicating with her, and if it's daytime, she's a dead body, so she doesn't have much will. Let's just give her a really high will. Yeah, so she's a green dragon. All right. Well, I think that was easier than I thought it was going to be. What I'm just going to quickly do, and then I'm going to stop in 10 minutes, is I just want to try and do this. Did I say my original write-out? No. For 2 of the different like warriors, because I'm really interested in this idea of like the range of things. So like rather than having all wood trolls be this, wood trolls have a range of things that they can be. And that I think works very well here. So the heroic warriors are probably there's only one specific group of them, and they are explicitly labelled as the best warriors in the world in this region beyond these people. So actually, let's try and do all 3 at once. These would be potentially the best. The heroic are also very good, and the Friends of Ing would probably be the weakest, and then these people would be like the mid. Theoretically, but not necessarily, because some of the individuals among these, particularly here, are particularly powerful. So, and strong. Right. Hooded men. Oh, they're very high in HP if they've got the same HP as a dragon. Okay. Most humanoids have at least 4 HP. Is it good at avoiding? Does it soak up damage? Is it strong? Is it high dex, high will? Okay, so okay, cool. I get it. Right. So wild ones would definitely be like the best at avoiding a hit. They're like the natural fighters, but probably don't have any armor. The heroic warriors probably have the best equipment. The got warriors in the middle, and the Friends of Ing likely don't have much armor. But again, like how do you indicate 0 or 1? Like 0 or 1 armor. Something like that, 0 or 1. Next to avoiding would be like these guys. So if I go for like 8, I think these are all way too high. If Alfionu's bud is 12, then the wild ones would be like half as strong, if that. I feel like this is all too low, but then I don't mind things going down in like 2 hits. It's fine. Let's go for 6, and then the heroic warriors can be 5, got warriors can be 4, and the Thrones of Ing can be 4 as well. Strength. Is it strong? These dudes are strong. We'll give them 12 strength. These dudes less strong. 10. 10. Potentially 8. And then real high will. Actually almost as good as this one, I would imagine. The heroic warriors actually possibly have the least will, because they're a bit more willing to go where the gold is, if that makes sense. They're a bit more like mercenary in some regards, a little bit more modern, a little more opportunistic than some of these people. So I think got warriors would have very high will, and the Friends of Ing I think also would probably have even higher will. So if we give them 16, them 14, or like 14, and then the heroic warrior is much lower. Yeah, that kind of works. And then weapons like, I don't know, like axes and spears. D8. I mean, like, I think in terms of weapons, they're all basically exactly the same. It doesn't really matter. Can I just put generic weapons, D6, D8, something like that, maybe? But like, you still want this range, don't you? You want this range of, like if you're going to be, so there's a place which has got like 4 or 5 of these guys these people in it. They're not all just going to walk up like carbon copied out of existence as 5 HP, 5 HP, 5 HP. You want that kind of fluidity. Maybe that's all. Maybe that's all in here. Maybe like I'm just like, maybe it's all just assumed as well, and I'm kind of like over fixating on some of the numbers. I almost like want the symbol like plus or minus D2. So like I could set there 8, and then they can go up to 10 strength, or they can be as low as 6 strength. You mean like a roll 2 plus D6 or something like that for it? Yeah, you could do, couldn't you? And I wonder if maybe like that is just simpler. And I mean, you could do like 2 plus D4, so that like we've got with the monsters, the troll, it does D8 plus D8. And then you'd have some who are very weak and some who are strong. You could do like 2 plus D6, and then you'd have like that broader range. And then you could be like 2 plus D4. I guess like the problem with this as a model is that like these static numbers are designed so that you can just pick them up and use them on the fly. And like the moment like you have to be like, oh yeah, 3 guys have turned up, hang on everybody, I just need to roll what their HP, their strength, their dexterity, their will is, it sort of becomes an issue. Because it just really would slow down play to be, and particularly if you added in like the adding and stuff, then it just is too what I had written is too much. Maybe I've seen sometimes things get presented like this. So you go like 4, 5, 6, 8, and then you're sort of just giving a range of numbers, and so the player, the GM or whoever could just be like, "Oh, I see what you mean. Yeah." So you could just do, because that's what I think. Is that what D&D does? Five E does, like, it's a range of numbers and an average. I think it does it for damage as well, maybe. So you could be like, yeah, D, so 2 plus D6 or 6, and just do that. I guess maybe that's the way of doing it. Yeah, maybe that's just it. And then at a glance, people who are used to just having the single number will still see the single number, and then people who want the range will get the range if they want it. Yeah, I'm going to go with that. I'm not sure it's perfect. I might ask on the old Discord what people think is the best approach, but I think that will work fine in my for now. Right, I'm gonna wrap it up here. Thanks everybody. Oh, hold your applause, please. Hold your applause for watching. And like I say, if you're watching this in the future, any comments about any of this stuff would be great, because I'm a little bit out of my depth, I think, with some of these things. So yeah,